The competition didn't stop, but something did change. At first, you didn't think much of it. You still spent time with all of them. Bakugou was still overprotective, and Kirishima still showered you with attention. Sarah still found ways to sneak in touches, and Mina was still relentless with her affection. But for some reason, you started noticing Denki more. Maybe it was the way he never seemed to take anything too seriously, while the others were constantly one-upping the stakes. Denki kept things lighthearted, like he didn't want to pressure you. Maybe it was the way he always knew you needed a laugh, or even on your worst days. Or maybe it was the way that he could make these little moments just linger. The way his fingers would touch you for a second longer when he brushed his hand against you. The way his jokes turned softer when it was just you two. The way his usual over-the-top flirting sometimes melted into something more genuine. It wouldn't be the first time, and you weren't sure when it started, but you were sure of one thing. Your heart started to beat a little bit faster around him. The one who waited. Denki never pushed you. The others had their own way of showing affection. Bakugou through protectiveness, Kiri through constant attention, Zero through sneaky closeness, and Mina through overwhelming enthusiasm. But Denki was just there. When you were overwhelmed by the chaos of constant competition, and he was the one who cracked a joke and made you laugh. When you needed space, he was the one who didn't make a big deal of it. One night, after a long day of training, you sat in the dormitory balcony, staring at the night sky. You needed a break from the madness, just some peace and quiet. Then the sliding door creaked open. "Mind if I join you?" You turned to see Denki, standing there with his usual lopsided grin. Something in his voice was softer than usual. You patted the empty spot beside you. "Sure." He sat back down, stretching his legs out with a sigh. Long day?" "You have no idea," you muttered. He chuckled. "Yeah, our friends are a lot." You snorted. "That's a bit of an understatement." For a moment, you both just sat there, or just kind of in a comfortable silence, just absorbing each other's energy. Then Denki leaned on the back of his hands, looking up at the sky. "You don't have to pick anyone, he said suddenly. He glanced at him. "Huh?" "The whole, competition thing," he said, waving his hands vaguely. "You don't owe anybody an answer. If you want to keep things the way they are, it's, totally fine." You studied him, surprised. "You're okay with that?" He grinned. "I mean, I would absolutely love to win your heart and have you fall madly in love with me, but yeah, absolutely." He shot you a wink. "But I also just, I don't know, enjoy being around you, even if it is just friends." Your heart clenched at that. He was so genuine. No pressure, no expectations, just Denki being Denki. You looked back at the stars. "Thanks, Denks." In that moment, you realized something terrifying. You liked him, and not in the way you liked all of them. It made your head spin when they fought over you and flustered you with their affection. No, this was different. This was real. Number 2, the shift. After that night, something changed. You started noticing things about him. Things that had never really been there. They never really paid attention to. Like the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, or how he tapped his fingers against his leg when he was deep in thought. The way he'd lean into you without realizing, just like it was second nature to be close to you. And most of all, the way you reacted to him. You found yourself choosing to sit next to him, seating him out more. When you had the chance, you found yourself laughing a little harder at his jokes, and your face warming when he shot you that stupid charming grin. You weren't sure if he noticed, but you definitely did. And so did the others. 3. The others start noticing. You've been spending a lot of time with Kaminari lately? Mina mused, knowing a smirk on her face. He nearly choked on your drink. What? I really haven't. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you have. Hiroshima grinned. Not that we blame you, he's a cool dude. Bakugou just scowled. Whatever. He groaned. You guys are reading way too into this. But you knew. They weren't. And apparently so did Denki. 4. The moment everything changed. It happened during movie night. You were all crammed up onto the common room couch, arguing what to watch. As usual, it was chaotic, and Bakugou was starting to leave. Mina was dramatically begging him to stay. Kirishima seemed to just be playing mediator, and Sarah was just enjoying the show. In the middle of it all, Denki plopped down beside you, draping an arm around your shoulders like it was the most natural thing he ever could have done in the world. You froze, but it wasn't the first time he'd been like this. Denki was touchy with particularly everybody, but this time your heart skipped a beat. You swallowed, trying to play it cool. But then he leaned in slightly, his warm breath against your ear. You okay? He murmured, just enough for you to hear. You turned your head and suddenly you were way too close. His golden eyes flickered over your face. His usual playful grin was nowhere in sight. Then, out of a moment of recklessness, you whispered back, I think I like you. The words barely left your mouth before you, as you realized what you'd said, and your eyes widened in horror. Denki blinked, and then his lips curved into the most softest, genuine smile you'd ever seen. Yeah, he said, voice quiet, like he couldn't actually believe what you had just said. You hesitated, but then gathered your courage, and nodded. Yeah. His grin turned bright enough to rival the sun. Well, damn, he whispered, fingers absent-mindedly playing with the hem of your sleeve. That's kind of amazing. Your heart raced. But before any of you could say anything, Mina screamed. Oh my god, I knew it! The entire room erupted into chaos. Kirishima cheered, Sarah whistled, Bakugou groaned, and Kaminari just pulled you closer, his laughter ringing throughout the room. You buried your hand in your face. I hate all of you. Denki chuckled, squeezing your shoulder. Nah, you love us. And he wasn't wrong, especially him. But days turned to weeks, and the chaos in the common room didn't settle down for a while. Mina was practically vibrating with excitement and clapping like you on the back like you just won some grand battle, and Sarah was making extremely exaggerated kissing noises. Even Bakugou, as much as he pretended not to care, shot you a look somewhere between annoyance, jealousy, and approval. Denki, for his part, was absolutely glowing. He hadn't stopped smiling since the words left her mouth, and he sure as hell wasn't letting you go anytime soon. His arm was still slung around your shoulders, his fingers playing with your sleeve, like he couldn't believe you were real. And honestly, neither could you. You hadn't meant to blurt it out. You hadn't even really fully processed what you had actually said until the words left your mouth. They were already hanging in the air by the time you actually had. But the moment you saw the way Denki's face lit up, like you just handed him the greatest gift in the world, you knew you didn't regret it. The aftermath. It took forever for everyone to settle back down. Even after the movie started, Mina kept sneaking glances at you and Kaminari, nudging you both every time you so much as shifted in the seat. Hiroshima kept winking at you. Sarah would dramatically sigh every few minutes like this was the most romantic thing he'd ever witnessed. And Bakugou, well, okay, he wasn't really part of this, he just muttered damn extras under his breath and pretended to be watching the movie. Meanwhile, Denki was in his own little world. Every so often his fingers would brush against your hand like he was testing the waters, waiting to see if you'd pull away. You didn't, and when you finally just laced your fingers with yours, squeezing your heart gently, something ridiculous happened in your chest. Neither of you said anything. You just sat there, hands intertwined, pretending to be invested in whatever dumb movie was playing on the screen. But Denki was so bad at hiding his excitement. His knee bounced every so often. His thumb kept tracing patterns against his skin, and at one point, Mina caught his eye and smirked. He shot her the most obnoxiously smug grin you'd ever seen. You groaned, burying your face in his shoulder. God, they're never gonna let it go, are they? Denki chuckled, leaning his head against yours. Nope, but hey, worth it. 2, the morning after. You kind of half expected the excitement to die down by now, but oh no, if anything, it was worse. When you stepped in the common room, you immediately met with a chorus of oohs from Mina and Sarah. Oh my god, do you guys ever take a break? You groaned, dragging a hand on your face. Hiroshima beamed at you. Nope. And Bakugou, who had clearly had enough of this already, stood up from the couch with a scowl. If you're gonna be disgustingly happy about this, at least do it somewhere loud enough to hear it. Denki snorted. Oh, come on, Kat-chan, don't be jealous. Bakugou's eye twitched. Shut up. You shoved Kaminari playfully, before he got himself exploded, just as he grinned at you, still riding the high of last night. Hey, he murmured, nudging you, before whispering something to you. You do, still feel the same since last night, right? Your face warmed. Yeah, I do. His smile softened. Cool, me too. Yeah, for all the bravo he had. You were glad you chose Kaminari. I mean, he was annoying sometimes, but he really was a sweet guy. And your first choice.